I'm Davin from brewbits.com. Behind the camera as usual we've got James. Say hello, James! Right, today I thought we would show you how to brew up one of our top selling wines, and a wine that's going to give you as good results home brewing as if you went and bought a 6, 7, 8 pound bottle of red wine off the shelf in the supermarket. It's basically the Kenridge Classic Series, and this time we're going to be doing a Pinot Noir. So there's going to be a few bits and bobs you're going to need to be able to brew this up. Really nice, really simple, really easy. We're going to need a bucket. We're going to need a big demijohn, or also known as a carboy. We're going to need a few other bits and bobs. We're going to need a siphon, a spoon for stirring everything, a thermometer to make sure we get everything at the right temperatures, hydrometer. And this is so that we can see how much alcohol we've got in the potential of the finished wine. Not only that, just to make sure that we're at the right stages according to the instructions in the kit. I also use this lovely little thing to use with my hydrometer, and it's basically a trial jar. I find that to get the best out of these wines, just before we bottle it, we use one of these. This is a Harris filter. It's available from our website, and it allows you to polish the wine and get it really, really good. So what are you going to do then once you've actually finished brewing it? Well, we need 30 wine bottles. So you're going to need 30 corks, and of course, a good old corker. Right, so once you've got all your equipment, there's one other thing you're going to need is some sterilizer, so we can sterilize all the equipment to make sure that no bugs, bacteria or anything are going to get into your brew. If you need to see how to sterilize, then go and check out our other videos, and we've got a video there telling you how to sterilize. But for now, let's get brewing. Oh, actually, there's one more bit of equipment we're going to need, and that's to keep my vocal cords nicely lubricated. Here, I've got a nice bottle of white wine. Right, let's go. The first thing we need to do is get into our box. So, it's nicely sealed. So inside the box, we've got a few bits and bobs. We've got a little bag with some things in it. We'll pop that open and show you what's in here. First of all, you've got your instructions. Now this is a Canadian kit. On one side you'll find the instructions in English, and on the other side, if you're feeling a little bilingual, they're in French. And then we've got a few other packets. So we've got a packet with some green writing on, which is potassium metabisulfate. We've got a packet with some red writing on, which is potassium sorbate. We've got a packet with some blue writing on, which is bentonite. These are all ingredients that are going to help improve and condition and whatnot the wine. We've got a packet of pearlescent looking stuff which is called Kisel Sol. This is part of the finings. You've also got another packet for the finings which is called Chitosan. Right, very important, we've got our yeast. And then, yes, in here we have the big main ingredient, and this is our grape concentrate. Right, so now you've seen all the ingredients, let's show you what to do with them. One of the biggest tips I can give you is regarding one of your biggest ingredients, and that's the water that's going to be going into with the bag of grape concentrate. Now, the water contains chlorine. Okay, it's only in a tiny little amount, but that can actually taint the wine ever so slightly and give you a little funny flavour. So the best thing to do is 24 hours before you're going to be brewing up is in another bucket, and I'm using one here with a tap, is to pull off about 17 litres of cold tap water and put that in your warm cupboard where you're going to be brewing your wine to. So it's about 20 degrees, and that will allow any chlorine or any chemicals in the water to dissipate. What it also does is brings everything up to room temperature and up to the right temperature so that we can get fermenting right from the off. Okay, so let's put that to one side at the moment. And let me get back out my bag of concentrate. It is quite heavy because it's 10 litres in here, and it's, as you can see, it doesn't like staying where you put it. Right. So let me get my bucket. Now I've sterilised my bucket here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this yellow cap off. And the best way I've found for doing this, come on in a bit, James, is basically sitting on the counter like this, take it around the neck here, and what we're going to do is we're going to get a knife in here. Careful not to cut yourself. This is a blunt knife, it's only just a knife you use for cooking with, and if you notice, I managed to squeeze it in there and twist. And it pops off quite nice and neatly. Right, now then, this comes the awkward bit, because this is why I like to grab my hand around here, because it means you can control the flow. And now look, no, there's nothing coming out. Try and not get this everywhere. It splashes and it stains. Away. As I say, it's quite awkward. The bag has got a mind of its own. There we go, look at that. Right. Just readjust. Just a second. They don't make them easy. Almost there. Okay, beautiful. Now then, this is going to make 23 litres, so 5 gallons basically. Now, you can see inside our bag, we've still got a lot of juice and whatnot, and this is where my little tap comes in handy, because I'm just going to fill it up with a couple of litres now from a tap of my bucket, with a little bit of water. Now I can give the bag a good swash out and get all of that extra wine that's in the bottom of this bag out. Just gotta do it one more time. There we go, one empty bag and all our great concentrate in the bucket. Okay, so after that little bit of exertion, always nice to have a treat. Okay, next thing then, we're going to need to take our packet with the blue writing on. This has got a powder in called bentonite. Come and have a look at this, James. It's a grey powder. Oh, very interesting. Basically, it's a form of clay. And this is a brilliant clay because if there's any proteins called pectin in the wine, then this clay absorbs it. And what that does is it helps us right at the end when we're trying to clear the wine, getting a really nice, clear, crisp, sharp, clean wine ready for bottling. So, once it's in, put the whole packet in, give it a good stir. Right, now it's all mixed in, we're ready to add the water. I'm here making a Cambridge Classic Pinot Noir. Now, some of the other kits, like the Chardonnay or the Cabernet Sauvignon, or some of the other kits, the Chateau Vert I can't ever say it, the Chateau Vert de Roy, have other ingredients like oak chips, elderberries, etc. Now, you might find that you've got a packet of that and you might need to add it at this point. Just follow your instructions. Remember, follow the English ones, or if you're feeling bilingual, follow the French ones. But anyway, I now need to top this up to 23 litres or 5 gallons. And I'm using my bucket here, which is nice and handy with my tap. If you haven't, then just siphon it in or use a jug. But I'm going to be taking it up to here, my 5 gallon mark, which is 23 litres. Not got long to go, as I said. Keep your treat to hand is always very handy. Cracking white wine. Almost there. I'm going to give it a good stir. Make sure all our grape concentrate is mixed in with all our clean water. Almost there, just a little bit left to go. Almost. Yes, lovely. Right, give it a good stir if you haven't done already. Make sure your grape concentrate and your water's all mixed together. Now we need to take a sample in our trial jar. So I've taken a sample, it's in our trial jar, and what we need to use now is our hydrometer. Now I've sterilised the hydrometer here. Come on in, James, can I have a look at this? Because on our hydrometer we've got a load of numbers starting from 0.990 through to 1.000, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, etc. and whatnot. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it in our trial jar and it's going to float. And when it floats, it will do something like that. And what we're trying to do is at eye level, we're trying to read off the number, the big number of what it's going to come up to. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to pop it in there. Okay, and as I said, we're having a good look here and we're reading this, and it's currently coming out at 1.088. Okay, right, now we note that down, and that later on is going to help us work out exactly what the alcohol content is, and is also going to make sure that every single step of the process in relation to the instructions, we're at the right step to be able to move on to the next step. Excellent. So make a note of that. Give your hydrometer a quick clean off. And because we sterilised our trial jar, we don't want to lose any of that. So back in that goes. Okay. Now we need to take our yeast, open it up, and gently sprinkle it on the top. Okay. We're going to take our lid and we're going to pop our lid down now, just two sides. That's going to leave these two sides open to allow any carbon dioxide that the yeast is going to generate to escape. And one of the biggest tips I can give you is, because this now needs to go into our warm cupboard and it needs to sit at about 20 degrees for 7 days. So take your thermometer, once you've put it in your warm cupboard, and put your thermometer on the top like that, and every day, just check it and make sure that it's at 20 degrees. If it's a little bit too cold, raise it up a little bit. If it's a little bit too warm, lower it down. And in 7 days' time, we need to check our specific gravity again with the hydrometer in our trial jars. We need to take another sample, and it needs to be at about 1.010 or below. And if it's at 1.010 or below, then we're ready to move on. If it's not quite ready, give it an extra day or two. So, should see you in about 7 days. The Kenridge Pinot Noir has been in my warm cupboard now for 7 days, and we're on to day 8, so I've taken a sample in my trial jar and it's coming out at 1.008. So, in the instructions it said as long as it's below 1.010, we're ready to move on to the next step. So, we're ready to move on. So what we're going to need is we're going to need one of these big babies, which is a carboy, and mine's plastic here. You're going to need your siphon, and you're also going to need a big stopper to go in the top of it with your bubbler in there with a bit of sodium metabisulfate solution in as well. So what we're going to do, let's move that to one side, is we're going to siphon it now from the bucket into our demijohn. The way we're going to do this, come on in James, have a quick look what I'm doing at the top. I'm literally just going to pop the top of the siphon here into the top, and we're going to follow the liquid down. Come back to me James. We're going to follow it down. As we go gradually down, we're going to gradually lower our siphon in. But for now, to get it flowing, we're going to give it a suck. And then pop it in. And it'll take a few moments for you to siphon all of the 5 gallons of wine here into your carboy. So, we'll see you back in a moment. You may find that to be able to get all of the wine out of your bucket and into your carboy, you might need to tilt your bucket very gently and keep it very steady until you get no sediment and you end up with those lovely noises, slurpy noises. And then all we do is, there we go. Careful not to get any of this red wine anywhere, because it does stain. And in the bottom of here, look, we've got lots of dirty, horrible sediment, a little bit of wine. And that needs to go and be cleaned out. Now, I've been a little bit naughty. I had a little sample. It's going well. Right, so here we've got our bung for our carboy, and you'll notice in the bottom of my airlock I've got some liquid filling the bottom 2 bubbles, and this is sodium metabisulfate, and this is going to help prevent any bacteria or bugs or anything else getting back into the wine, but it's going to allow carbon dioxide that the yeast produces to come up and bubble its way through and bubble it release. Okay, so that goes on there like so, and what we do now is this now goes back into our warm cupboard 20 degrees for another 12 days, and that's going to allow the rest of the sugar to be eaten up by the yeast, and also so that then when all the sugar is gone, the yeast can start to work on some of the other compounds within the wine and start really making a really good quality red wine. So this goes back into your warm cupboard 20 degrees for another 12 days. Our Kenridge Classic Pinot Noir has been sat in my cupboard for another 12 days to finish its secondary fermentation. And I've taken a sample with my hydrometer, and it's coming out at 0.995, and it's showing me that it's basically time to move on to the next steps. And what we're going to do here is we're going to be transferring it from our carboy back into our bucket using our siphon. Of course, we've sterilised everything here, and what I'm going to do to make my life a little bit easier, I'm using a bucket clip. It's just a little bucket clip, and that'll sit on the side of our bucket like that and make sure my tube doesn't move anywhere. But for the meantime, what we're going to do in our siphon goes, we give a good suck and let it flow. Back to me, James, back to me, because there is one thing I've forgotten to let people know about. This can take a little bit of time, so another imperative thing to have is something to keep you going for a few minutes. Cheers. Right, we've finished siphoning our wine from our carboy into our bucket. Let me just get rid of that for a second. And now we need to get out our packet of green stuff. This is potassium metabisulfate, and this is our stabilizer. So we just open that up, sprinkle that on the top, and then with a sterilised spoon, it must either be plastic or stainless steel. Please do not use a wooden spoon. We need to give it a good stir in. Lovely. Right. Just going to grab my pair of scissors, because the next thing we need to add is something called Kieselguhr Sol, and you'll see it's a slightly pearlescent liquid. And this is part of our clearing process to get any sediment that's floating around in the wine to sink to the bottom. And all we do, chop the corner off and pour it in. There we go, all in. And we give it a little stir. The next part of what we need to do is what we call degassing. And within our wine right now, there's going to be a lot of carbon dioxide still dissolved into the liquid. And so we need to get that out to help the Kieselguhr Sol to clear all the wine. Basically, whilst there's carbon dioxide in it, it can release out. It's just going to start creating any sediment that manages to settle at the bottom to cloud back up and plume back up and create clouds. So we need to give it a really good stir. So we need to get quite vigorous with this. You need to be very vigorous. And need to get a nice little action going. You see all this froth forming on the top? That's because of all the carbon dioxide that's dissolved into it. A good 30-second stir, nice vigorous 30-second stir. Okay. Now over the next 2 days, we need to do this again and again and again. 8 times in total over the next 2 days. We need to give it a really good stir. Give me 2 seconds. Because once you've stirred it, you need to grab your lid, pop your lid on firmly, and pop it somewhere. Whew. Up it goes! Oh. Please be careful, it is heavy. And then I'm going to pop this here and out every day, for the next 2 days. I'm going to give it a good stir a few times a day, morning, noon, afternoon, and just before I go to bed. Give it a really good stir, get all that carbon dioxide out of it. Brilliant. So that's its last stirring, hardly any more bubbles coming out of that, so we're ready for the next steps. Now, if you read the instructions, it will tell you that there's this little packet which is potassium sorbate. Now this is a preservative to help keep the wine going if you're thinking about storing the wine for longer periods of time. I've never really felt a need for it. If you'd like to reduce the amount of chemicals you're putting in the wine, then feel free, pop it back in the box. Won't do any harm if you leave it out. However, if you were going to add, say, a sweetener to the wine to make your wine a little bit less dry, then you will need to add it to stabilise the wine a little bit further. But because we're not going to do that, because I like my wines dry, we're going to move straight on to the next bits. Now, in your pack you will have one of these. It's a pack of what's called chittisauer. You need to give it a good shake, make sure it's all mixed up. And all we're going to do is chop the top off, pour it all in, make sure it's all in there. We're going to give it a good stir in, make sure all the chittisauer is mixed in. This is the last part of the finings to clear your wine, and this is going to help make the wine absolutely fantastic and brilliantly clear. So once we've got it all mixed in, we're going to put the lid on firmly, and now I'm going to put it in a place. I'm now not going to move this for another 6 days. Leave it exactly as it is, don't let anybody touch it, and any sediment, any particles that are currently suspended in the wine will gradually start to sink down through, and you'll see them settle at the bottom, and then we'll be ready to go on to siphon it off, and then we'll show you how to get a fantastically brilliant wine ready for drinking. Our Kenbridge Pinot Noir has had another 6 days in the buckets to clear, and so all the particles that are suspended within the wine, now that we've added the chittisauer and it's combined with the Kieselsohl, it's all sank down to the bottom. We've got a lovely layer of sediment at the bottom. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take another bucket, which we've sterilised, and we're going to take our siphon, which we've sterilised, and we're going to siphon from this bucket into this bucket, being very careful not to mix up any of the sediment at the bottom. So what we do, literally pop it in the top, give a good suck, and let it flow. It does take a bit of time, so let it flow. Back to me, James, and make sure you've got something to keep you a little bit happy as you're going along. Right, so we finished siphoning our wine from our first bucket into the second. Come on in, James, have a quick look like this. And you'll see we've got quite a bit of gunk left at the bottom. Nothing we can do with that, I'm afraid, so that's to go. So right, we're now left with our bucket of lovely, lovely wine. There's two things you can do at this point. If you're like me and you like your wines to be absolutely in tip-top, perfect condition, then we're going to filter it. Alternatively, if you're not too fussed about that and you don't mind going to a cave in France and you're drinking a bottle of red wine, and before you drink it, they pour it into a carafe for you, and you notice as you're pouring from the carafe into the glass, you get a little bit of sediment in the bottom. Well, that's because it's still in here. There might be some acids and some crystals that will gradually form over time. There might still be some sediment that's actually still floating around in there that gradually over time will settle. Well, sometimes that happens in the bottle. If you don't mind that, you go for the authentic route, go for it. However, I like to be a little bit more perfectionist, and I like to use a filter to polish my wine, and that's what we're going to show you now. Right guys, so I've got our Pinot Noir going from our second bucket now down here. If you come down here with me, you'll see what we've got is I've got Harris filter set up, and I've got it flowing already with a crystal bright pad, and this is going to polish our wine and get rid of any little tiny specks of sediment out of our wine and give us a really good polished wine. This may take a little bit of time to do it, and if you want to see how I set up the Harris filter to get it flowing and also to prime it ready for use, then go and check out our other video which shows you how to filter your wine with a Harris filter. It takes a little bit of time to get the wine filtered through the filter, but when it's done so, It's absolutely perfectly clear, no sediment in whatsoever. So now it's time to bottle. Here I'm using some straightforward green bottles, 75 cl, and I've sterilised them, and all we're going to do is we're going to take our siphon. Come on in a second, James. Because on our siphon we've got a sediment trap at the bottom here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this sediment trap off because we don't need it. Okay, back to me, James. We don't need it anymore because there's no sediment in here to worry about. So what we're going to do is pop it straight in the top, and no worries at all. As I said, it's sterilised. Again, same as what we've always done, give a good suck, and this end we've got our tap so we can control the flow. There we go, and down to our bottle, and on the tap goes. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to fill it up to about here, which is going to give us just about enough room, plus a finger's width to get the cork in. Okay, so you can get yourself a little cork and you can measure it, and you can see just below the cork here, I've got about a finger's width between the cork and the wine. Okay, so now you're ready to pop your corks in. But I'm going to fill the rest of my 30 bottles before I do that. So I'll see you back in a mo. Took a little bit of time to fill my bottles of wine, and as you can see here I've got 29 bottles and a little bit left over. So it's tasting good. Still a little bit sharp at the moment, and it's going to need a little bit of time to settle down. But anyway, what we're going to do now is we're literally just going to pop a cork in our bottle, and to do that, here I've got my corks, and I've got my handy corker, and all I'm going to do is literally pop it in there, and we've done one cork. My corking, I've done this a few times as you can see. Right, I'm going to get on with the rest of my bottles, and once you've done that, all you need to do is stand your bottles upright for 48 hours. That allows the cork to set. Once the 48 hours is gone, you then need to lay them down so the cork is in constant contact with your wine, and that stops the cork drying out and prevents any bugs and bacteria getting in. Okay, well, ideally, as you've seen, you can drink it straight away. If you're impatient, leave it a month. If you can put it down for 6 months and come back to it in 6 months, it'll be fantastic. If you can leave it for a year, then you are talking absolute perfection, and this stuff will rival any £8 bottle that you would get on the shelf in a supermarket. Anyway, finish off bottling the rest of them, put them down, and in a few months' time, enjoy.